Hello, folks. Welcome to Between Awesome and Disaster. This is your host, Will Carey. I appreciate you tuning in. How are you? How is your summer risen like a zombie hand out from the grave? Because it has been 80 degrees in New York City, again, where I am, after like a smattering of hoodie weather. I was all ready to start listening to that Wonder Years song. I was prepared for maximum fall coziness, but now sweating through the resurgence of summer before fall really settles in. Still haven't had anything pumpkin spice related because it is just too hot to appreciate a good pumpkin flavored drink so far this season. But I am still very excited about many things going on. Not to not mention Ghosts of Tsushima, which I just got for PlayStation. But I'm recording this the night before a pretty epic weekend that I have coming. So you'll be listening to this after this weekend. So by the time you'll be hearing this, I will have not only seen Lionel Messi play soccer in New York City. I was fortunate enough to see him years and years ago when he still played for Barcelona. But now that he is on Inter Miami, he is coming to New York. And even though I still love New York City FC, it is a treat to get to see one of the greatest of somebody doing anything right now in person. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I can imagine it's going to be a absolute carnival. I wonder what the atmosphere will be like, because I have been seeing, since Messi has come to Major League Soccer, I have seen his jersey everywhere at games that he's not playing in, or his team is not playing in. So I'll be very curious to see what the stadium looks like for a game where he is playing it. And this is one where I'm not going to be too broken up if we lose. I did just watch New York City lose 5-1 to Philly earlier this week, so I'll be very curious to see the atmosphere, the ambiance, the massive crowds that are expected. And then on Sunday, my band Skiplag is going to be in the studio with the business partner of my guest today. My guest today on the show is Larry Spahn. He is in the band's On Hiatus, bassist who just completed a 15-year anniversary tour. He's also in the hilarious hardcore punk band Pyrite, who play very sick early 90s hardcore punk inspired riffs with insane lyrics about personal hygiene. He's also the co-founder with friend of the show, also from Hopeless Otis, Brandon, of Knuckle Down Records. And Skiplag will be recording with Brandon at If and Only If Productions this weekend. So I'm very excited to get to work on recording some new music for Skiplag to share with everybody. And I am very much looking forward to that experience. And I'm especially excited to share this conversation with you, because Larry is one of my favorite people that I have met in recent years. I met him initially when my last band, Bright Ugly, played one of the Knuckle Down's record shows at the Shillelagh Tavern here in Astoria, and Skiplag were fortunate enough to get to play one of those shows recently. We had an excellent time, and I had never really spent a lot of time chatting with Larry outside of doing shows. So this was our first time sitting down, having a long conversation. We ended up talking about things that I could not have planned for. We talked about history, as well as New York and the history, and a lot of history. Like we really leaned into our middle-aged man thing of being really interested in events of the past. But it was a really fun, joyous conversation that I'm really looking forward to sharing with you guys. If you enjoyed this, I would love to hear what you guys think. I want to solicit some responses. So if you want to message me, you can find me on Instagram, willcarry23. You can also find the podcast Between Awesome and Disaster, all one word. And when I post about this episode, I'd love to hear what you guys think of the episode, because I think it's a really good time. I had a blast recording this, and I think you're going to have a lot of fun listening to it as well. Knuckle Down Records, if you are an Astoria, Queens resident, Knuckle Down Records have shows at the Shillelagh Tavern constantly, and they're always super fun, and there's always a great roster of like cool new bands in the like punk and alternative rock kind of scene. So if that's your jam, it's a great time for not a lot of money. At a time where tickets generally cost a lot of money. So let's get into it and dissect all of the many things that my good friend Larry Spahn does. Well, I'm always like fascinated with this sort of like the dichotomy of like the sort of like anti-authoritarian like ideal of what a punk rocker is, and then the very like real reality of like we all have to like make a living and support ourselves in some way. So I have like routinely like been like the bulk of my like support jobs have been like customer service or retail for most of my life. So I would just like get yelled at for like 8 hours straight about like the Nintendo Wii, and then like want to go and like rage about something.
So I used to work when I was in college. I worked at Stop and Shop in the I started in the frozen food department, which was a disaster. No one told me that you had to put everything away at night for the first week, and like everything melted in the back, and I'm like, hey guys, tell me this, you know, like I apparently don't know ice cream melts, you know. Then they fired me the day after I got into the union, so they couldn't fire me. So they had to put me somewhere else. They put me in the deli department, and I was there for 3 years, and I know exactly what you're talking about, because like one thing that would always frustrate me is that the managers would have these rules that you had to follow. And then if a customer came and asked you to break those rules, and you said to the customer that you couldn't break those rules, they go and complain to the manager, and the manager comes back and asks why you're not doing it for the customer.
Well, it's a rule. Yeah, exactly. It's a rule. Like that's sort of like everything is an arbitrary rule until like the guest needs something. I remember like when I worked at Target, like someone bought the display model of a grill and then needed help like breaking it down so it could fit in the trunk of their car. And then, because again, I think I'm going above and beyond. And then suddenly I come back and they're like, why did you do that? I'm like, well, I thought I'm supposed to go above and beyond. I think obviously there's exceptions, but there is a specific breed of like middle management kind of retail type that is just very like upset with how their life is, and so they need to make everybody around them feel as miserable as they do.
I hate that. That's how true that is. Yeah.
Right.
Yes, that's absolutely true.
Yeah. It's almost like the deli department is like you're the equivalent of like the rubber rooms. Like you know, like they can't get rid of you, but they're just gonna put you somewhere to like put you on ice, basically.
That's pretty much how it felt. Yeah. And then I think they just wanted me to quit really bad. And then I'm a very spiteful person, so I ended up staying there.
No, exactly. The best way to spite them would be just to make everybody love you, and then become an indispensable part of the deli.
That's exactly what I did.
Excellent. I like the idea of a friendliness as revenge. I like this idea.
That's always my strategy with revenge.
Oh no, 100%. It's like, oh well, you've done me wrong, so I'm going to just go and excel in a lot of different ways that you can't possibly comprehend.
Well, what's the saying? The best revenge is living well. All right.
Oh yeah, and like I think in the digital age, you can of course see where all your friends from high school, where their jobs end up, or who they end, or like how their relationships fall apart,
right?
Or like what mandatory military service they had to do.
Oh my God, yeah.
I found out that the kid who gave me a black eye in 7th grade, like he did not have things did not go well for him. So I was like, yes,
take that. You got a black eye on life.
Yeah, that goes like this fades, but that'll never fade.
That's right. That's a permanent black eye.
I love that look because this is the first time, dude. We've like are really like talking. Like we've seen each other at shows and stuff.
Right,
so
right.
I'm really psyched to like because what I love about this is like and I talk about this with comics as well. Like I know you from like your stage persona and like you're sort of like role in the scene as they say, but like I know that there's gonna be a lot that I'm gonna learn when we talk as opposed to like the butt pirate guy or like the Hopeless Otis guy.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up? Are you from New York City?
Yeah. I've been in Queens my whole life.
Queens your whole life. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
that's
I know.
awesome. So you're my wife's born and raised in Brooklyn. The native New Yorker who stayed, that's a rare breed, I've been told.
Yes. It's strange to be like, because I mean, living here my whole life being rare.
Yes.
It's kind of weird. But I guess also it depends on the neighborhood you're in too. And like my parents where I'm from, Woodhaven. Most people in Woodhaven are native New Yorkers. I mean, truth is, there's no reason to go to that neighborhood. So.
unless you live there. Where is Woodhaven in Queens?
So it's it actually butts up to Cypress Hill in Brooklyn. So it's
okay.
I mean, so I imagine everyone is familiar with like Bushwick, Ridgewood.
Yes.
It's like 2 neighborhoods over from Ridgewood.
Okay. Yeah. That like you're more deep, like localized Queens and Brooklyn. Like how far off from there would be like Canarsie? Like a few more.
So that's probably like, I don't know what the distance is, but it's you're going to be probably driving for like 35 minutes on the Belt Parkway.
Okay. Oh, so that's driving New York City. That's a whole other breed of New York City.
To get there by train now, you're talking about like 2 hours probably. Because I grew up down the block on the J train.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Woodhaven Boulevard stop of the J train.
Okay.
Yeah, so which at the time was not a train you really wanted to get on.
Sure.
It was very different than it is now. But yeah, that was my main mode of transportation when I was growing up, which was interesting.
Was that J train. And so like growing up, because I instantly for some reason like pictured you playing like stickball in the street, but I think that's like 1940s, which I can't.
You're not far off though. You're not.
So like growing up in like a working class like Queens neighborhood, like what was like the vibe? Did you have to like run to like avoid getting beat up as a kid, or like what?
Sometimes. Like especially when I was, I guess, elementary, middle school age. If you were on a BMX bike, someone was going to try to steal it from you. So that was always a thing for whatever reason. I don't know why. But yeah, that was a thing. But also like I had a lot of friends in the neighborhood, so I didn't have to worry about it that much. Like, I mean, it was a different time, obviously, you know,
for sure.
But also like everyone was outside then, like I would walk outside my house with a basketball and kids would just find me, which was, I would now thinking about it like in like 2024 terms, like, wait, how did you find them without a phone?
Right? Like you just were playing basketball and then an afternoon erupted out of just organically.
Yeah.
That is a time that I wish I could have experienced, like growing up in New York, because I grew up in like the boonies, not even suburbs. So there was no even like fun like Gen X sort of like, oh, I'm just going to go over to Brian's house and then we're going to go do something and I'm just going to say hi to his mom briefly. It was like you had to like get driven somewhere, so that means you had to arrange with a friend's parent and then your parent to drive you over there, and like predestined times. There's no sort of like organic like learning about life by like hanging out in the woods for hours.
Right. Yeah.
For me. The other thing I always think about now is I feel like New York sitcoms gave me an unrealistic expectation of adult friendship. Like the amount of times that my friends are just, again, organically hanging out at my apartment, very rare.
Yeah.
They hang out when I'm recording.
Right. Well, none of us have a space big enough for guests.
Yeah. Well, that's also what I'm thinking. Like, I feel like growing up in New York, like you're out because space is at a premium. So like go stay out as late as possible and then until you have to go to sleep or eat.
More or less.
Essentially.
And thankfully I grew up in a neighborhood where we had a house. So we had a little more space than like, which is kind of a strange transition for me because, you know, growing up in a house and then my entire adult life, I've been in apartments that have been like tiny, you know, you know,
I do,
unfortunately. Right. But yeah, that's definitely what it is. I mean, also there's just everyone around, you know, so like your friends are going to be right there, you know, your family might be right there if you grew up here. So there's always a reason to go outside. And then also there's always, like, as a kid, there's parks everywhere, you know, and there's people in those parks. So there's always like, it's opportunities for social interaction, which was good for me as a kid. I needed it bad, so it was good.
Yeah.
I guess once you turn 21, there's a lot of options in New York to be outside. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or if you know the right people before 21.
No, totally. So other than basketball, do you have any other like kind of like core memories like growing up like in your house? Like, did you have like, was your house a musical house?
Not at all, actually. And so I'm the youngest of 5.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And only me and my oldest brother ever played music.
Okay.
Yeah. And my oldest brother, he mostly did like DJing and he did some kind of rap thing for a little while.
Okay.
He could play guitar, so he could play an instrument. But for the most part, no. My parents, especially my dad, pushed baseball on us hard.
Okay.
Which was fine. I mean, I was good at it, you know, so, you know, I played for a while, you know, but like music was something I discovered on my own.
Interesting.
Yeah, like my parents are their typical boomers, you know, like so, you know, listening to whatever, you know, from the 60s and 70s, you know,
Motown, CCR, like that that kind of kind of stuff.
I mean, like the closest they'll get to like what I like. I mean, they know the Ramones, they know the Clash. And that's pretty much as far as it goes.
That's not bad, though.
No, it's not.
I feel like those are pretty good entryways because the Clash I've always thought were a very eclectic band in terms of punk music.
Yeah.
And the Ramones I've always thought were a slightly faster version of like those 50s bubblegum pop bands.
Yeah.
Like, you know, your Ohio Express, like that Yummy, Yummy, Yummy song. Yeah. Like stuff like that. To me, the Ramones was just a faster version of that.
I think that's right. I've heard a lot of people say they're just like a 70s band that can't play a guitar solo, which I guess is kind of the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair to the Ramones, they do have the one note solo on Sedated.
That's true. It's pretty badass.
Oh, yeah. I enjoyed that one. I've said this to one other, just because we're talking about the Ramones. I was talking with one other friend. There is a part of me that's a little relieved that Johnny passed away before Trump became a politician, because I know that he would have ruined their music forever.
Yeah, no, you're probably right.
Because he definitely had a lot of things in his older age, especially around Bush, that were like, really? Okay.
Wasn't he a big Reagan guy when he was younger too?
Yeah, and then he and Joey always had like a kind of tension because Joey was Jewish, so there was always like tension in that, which I understand. And I'm sure you could probably relate to this, like the dynamics of keeping a band together long enough to like get an album made or get like a tour done. If you really think about it, it's amazing that any music ever gets made ever.
Oh, 100%. I mean, the average lifespan of a band is like a year. But yeah, like, because you have to get, I mean, at this point, adults, they get their schedules to all come together to be able to practice enough, play shows enough, to be able to get money together to record. Yes. You know, like there's so many moving parts involved that I guess if you're not in a band, you would never really know about.
No. Yeah. I think people who aren't in the arts like don't understand like the mental energy that comes into coordinating practices, booking space, figuring out like guarantees, door deals, all of this stuff. And then again, making sure everyone shows up for the show.
Yeah.
And like the mental wear that can do to a person. And again, we all do it because there's no other choice.
That's about right. Yeah.
So when you say you had to like discover music on your own. So what did that look like? So this is like 90s or 80s?
This was late 90s into like 2000ish.
Okay, so we're still in like the CD era. So how were you like discovering bands?
Well, it started like with things that were on the radio, which would mean like the gateway for me was like Rancid and Mighty Mighty Boss Tones.
Yeah,
those were like, because they were all over the radio in like 99, 2000. And then from there, I'm like, wait, I like these songs better than everything else I'm hearing on the radio. So how do I dig deeper into that? And this was, I mean, dial-up, the age of dial-up, right? Yep. So I was using AOL search to find things and stuff, and then I would go to like Sam Goody and find a CD. like this looks like this is the same font kind of that band. I think it might sound the same. Let's find out. You know, like 13-year-old me.
Yeah, you just kind of like are looking at the CDs and like, okay, this vaguely reminds me of something I've seen. I'll give it a shot. Or my favorite thing to do, like when the opportunity presented itself, is they would have those like listening stations. You scan the barcode and you can listen to like 30 seconds. It was like iTunes preview before iTunes was a thing. Yeah. That was you could still do that in the world. I've done that in
really.
Yes, Tower Records is still a thing in Japan.
Okay, this is blowing my mind right now.
Yes.
All of this is blowing my mind.
Oh, dude.
Tower Records exist, and you could still listen to the CDs.
Tower Records, well, there's one in Ireland, but it still exists in Shibuya, in Tokyo. Wow. There's like a 5-floor Tower Records, and it is a wonderland. Wow. It is incredible. Like the first time I've been fortunate enough to go there a couple times now. Yeah. And the first time I went in there, not only there's a cafe, there's like genre specific floors. Wow. There's there's an idol group giving a live performance. There's an entire section dedicated to Japanese punk rock music.
That's amazing.
It's incredible. And they're doing such great stuff.
Yeah.
Like if you listen to any of like our favorite bands talk about when they tour Japan, it's like all the bands that would open for them.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm gonna hook you up. There's some stuff.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
I've got some playlists ready to set you do.
Hell yeah.
Awesome. So it was like Rancid, Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. Trying to think what else might have been around that, like maybe like some ska, like Say Ferris or anything like
that. Say Ferris, and like I guess Green Day was all over the radio then, which I mean I liked when I heard it then, and then I like really grew out of it, like which I don't know if that's a popular thing to say, but
I do understand. They're one of those bands like Blink or New Found Glory. They will always, I will still always want to hear them.
Yeah. I mean, it's so nostalgic. I mean, that's really what it is for me. Like I'm not sure if I would like, if I heard it for the first time today, I'd be like, oh, this is great. But when I heard it for the first time when I was 12, like, oh my God, this is blowing my mind right now.
Oh yeah. I have an ongoing theory I like sharing with people is I view like pop punk, the way I got into pop punk is the same way I got into coffee. Like when I first started drinking coffee and listening to music, it was like pop punk, give me all the sugar, whipped cream, vanilla, caramel, all of the little crunchy sweet bits. Then I finally learned to drink coffee with like just milk and sugar. Maybe that was the Descendants, Ramones. Then maybe I learned to drink black coffee. Black Flag or Buzzcocks or like all the classic hardcore of that era. And then when you get into like single, like pour over, like just an eyedropper of water over one solitary coffee bean, then that would be like DOA and all of the like 3-letter acronym bands.
That's actually a good analogy. I gotta use something like that because that progression is almost exactly how I went. Like it's almost the same way. Yeah, it starts out with the pop punk on the radio, and then you're like, oh, where did this all start? And you start digging back to the Ramones and the Sex Pistols and all that stuff, and you're like, all right, I'm over this now. What's new?
You start like listening to interviews and like, oh, I'll go listen to that. That band I like mentioned that. I'll go check that out. I'll check this out. And then like how far back down can you go?
Right. Yeah.
That's a really fun. It's like being an archaeologist in a weird way, and it's just like you're finding like the identity and like a community around that stuff at that age.
And what was interesting for me too is as I started discovering this stuff in middle school, and I'm pretty sure, I mean, my middle school had like 3,000 kids in it, so I couldn't say I knew everyone.
Sure.
But everyone I knew, nobody was listening to what I was listening to in my middle school.
Yeah.
Nobody, zero people.
Oh, no.
So like they were, and then like when the kids would like ask me about music, what I listen to, I'm like, I don't know what to tell you because you're not going to know what I'm going to say.
Right.
I still feel that way as an adult, but
you know, like you list off of bands, you're like, I got nothing. Like,
right. Yeah. Oh man. It's like every conversation with coworkers is like that. But like when I got to high school, then I started meeting people that like listened to the same stuff I did. And I started learning bands from them. And that's when it really started to expand. Like, like my freshman year, this guy I knew, John, was really into the Bouncing Souls.
Yeah.
And that was the year that they came out with How I Spent My Summer Vacation, which is like the pinnacle of their discography.
Yes.
Right? And I heard that, I'm like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing I've ever heard. Like, I'm never listening to any other genre ever again.
Right.
That's definitely how I felt for a long time.
Amazing. Classic band, classic like tri-state area band as well. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And were you playing like an instrument during this time, or did that come later?
That came later.
Okay.
That was something, like I said, like nobody in my family other than my older brother, I guess, was kind of playing an instrument. So I never really had access to it. I never had anyone encouraging me to do it until when I was in high school. One of my friends said to me, "Hey, you're playing bass in my band." I'm like, what? I don't have a bass. I don't know. I think the bass is the one with the 4 strings, right? Like, I don't know. And he's like, yeah, you're playing. I'm like, how do I do this? He goes, it just so happens Eric's selling his bass for $50. So you're going to buy his bass and then you're going to play it. Okay, I'll scrounge up $50, but I can't guarantee it's going to be any good. And it wasn't. I was terrible.
Sure.
I was absolutely terrible.
I feel like bass is the one instrument that everyone just gets like, it's just thrust upon you. Like, how many people in punk bands like start out going, my dream was to play bass? It's always like, well, I was just with a band and they're like, you play bass now. I'm like, oh, I guess I play bass now.
Well, I can't play guitar, so I gotta play bass.
Yeah, I'll learn how to go like 3, 5, 9.
That's pretty much what it was. Like I was just like reading tabs over and over again. Like, I think I can match the number to the letter. Let's see how this works. Yeah, and then like other times I'm like, I'm really bad at this. I would turn the volume knob down. I'm like, hope no one notices that this is so bad.
Right.
And that was
well, there's always just a couple of songs like when you first start playing bass and you're like, all right, root notes, I got this, and then you start getting like a Rancid song or like slap bass or like you, because everyone goes through a Flea phase at least for a second, and you're just like, oh boy, okay,
yep, exactly.
I need to practice more.
I was thinking about it like, oh, I'm so glad that a lot of the bands I listen to, the bass is just root notes. So I'm like, I could do that.
Yeah. I'm just now getting into, because I always, like, since I've been in New York, I've never been a guitarist in a band. I've always been a bass player in a band because that's what's needed. So I'm just now trying to get to play, well, maybe I could try to play bass, like not like a guitarist plays bass. Maybe I could do like a little doo-doo-doo-doo or something like that. But my favorite things to do are just like go out on root notes. Cause like, I'm sure you, like when we did the last show together at the Chalet, like I'm trying to be entertaining as much as possible. Cause I think that's like half the battle. Like the songs need to be good. You kind of got to play them right, although I'll give us live, I'm like, if I hit 80%, I'm fine. But then I need to like, do spins and like shout at the crowd and like be amusing in between songs.
That's one of the reasons why I focus on root notes too. It's like the last thing, I don't want to stand in one spot throughout the whole set. Because that's like one thing, like when I'm playing a show, like I'm very physical, like I'm all over the room. Like,
yes, you are.
And I can't accept anything else. So I have to be. So I'm like, I mean, I could probably play more complex stuff sometimes. I'm like, I see these metal bands that are playing like crazy stuff, but they haven't looked at me once, and you know they're standing in one spot, and like I don't know, like it's cool, but like it's cool recorded more than it is live, you know?
Yeah, because part of live is the show. Like that's it becomes, you got to be put on a show at the same time, and you absolutely do. Like, because I've seen you with but Pyrite and Hopeless Otis, and like you're like going forward to Hopeless Otis, and then the first time I think when my old band played with Pyrite at Shillelagh, and the room was packed out, and like you're just this like bearded like hardcore like maniac. Like I don't know if you ever like rip your like go shirtless at shows.
No, I try not to. Although people sometimes yell it, you know, well, you know that. But I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I can't lower myself to that.
Yeah.
Like we're about the music.
Exactly. And especially like a band like Bedpan, because like you're playing this like very like Earth Crisis-y Judge like Cro-Mags kind of riffs, and you are singing very intensely absolute ridiculous lyrics. But I say this with like as much love as possible. I say this with like it's amazing because it's so absurd.
What you were describing was the goal. Like that was like when we started the band, like I was like, look, we have to sound like we're serious.
Yes.
It's only going to be funny if we sound like we're serious. Like I want people to come in the room and go, oh, okay, yeah, it's another hardcore band. Like, okay, we can like break each other's nose to this. And like, wait, did he just say wipe your butt? What?
I know, right? It's like, wait, this isn't about the government. Is this a metaphor? No, I think it's literally just about wiping your butt.
It's funny. People do ask me that sometimes, like, oh, does this actually mean this? I'm like, no, it literally mean if you listen to the lyrics, it is actually a recipe for pound cake.
Oh my God, someone should make the pound cake recipe to that song. Oh, dude. And so Hopeless Otis was first though.
Yes.
So, And so Hopeless Otis formed around what time? How old were you?
I was 21.
Okay.
When we started. I was 21. Just out of college.
Gotcha. Okay. So, and you went to college for education?
Well, my degree's in history. I did my minor in education.
Okay, cool. Only because I have a model of the Titanic behind you. I want to dive in, talk about this just a little bit.
That's pretty cool.
Okay. Do you have like, because again, I know we're all kind of like approaching like the age where we have to start as men being reading about World War II. Like it's mandated.
Yeah, you
it's
have no choice.
Happening. No choice. Do you have like a particular historical, when you study history, do you specialize in like a certain era or a certain like event? Like, are there like specialists in ancient Rome, in the Roman Empire?
Oh, absolutely. When I did my bachelor's, we had to pick a concentration, which was still kind of a general concentration, whether it be like ancient history, medieval history, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, my concentration was Europe post Middle Age. So it was like 18th to the beginning of the 20th century was my bachelor's.
Okay.
And then my master's, I actually wrote my thesis on the causes of World War I.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So which is like technically like the end of the 19th century for Europe.
Yes.
You know, that's what ended it. Yeah. That's pretty much what my focus was on.
Wow. And what did you find? I'm assuming it all led up to Franz Ferdinand's assassination, but I'm sure there was stuff that went in place that made that assassination boil over into the World War I.
Oh yeah, absolutely. My thesis, like my thesis advisor, at first didn't want to approve my thesis because he didn't agree with it, because I was taking a stance that was a little different than the accepted stance, which was just Germany did it all. Right, that's what everyone says. Germany did it all; they're all the fault. Which I mean is easy to do. I guess.
It's very easy. Just blame it on Germany.
Right. I mean, we've been doing that forever, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but if you look at, if you look at the evidence and stuff, you see that my thesis was that Austria-Hungary actually were the ones that started the war, and it only became a world war because of Russia. Because Russia wanted to take all those all the parts of the Ottoman Empire was falling apart, and so did Austria-Hungary, and that's what caused them to butt heads, and all the alliances, everyone else fell in line.
Yeah. Which it almost sounds like you have, again, a time of like radical change, and then you have the old guard trying to hold on to what had been working for them for so long. Oh, I feel like that sounds pretty familiar.
Yeah, it sure does.
And it also makes me think about, because again, I read about the Titanic so much. I view like the sinking of the Titanic as like the first fall of the Gilded Age. So like there wasn't even income tax on the super rich before. I think it's 1914.
That's right. Yeah.
So you have this era of like Edwardian wealth and like that whole manner of dress and
the top hats and the monocles and everyone looks like the Monopoly man
and all that stuff. Like these people that just like encase themselves against all of anything that the horrors of the world, and then they all drowned and froze to death, the same as the immigrants on the boat did, and they're like,
the great equalizer.
the great equalizer, yes. And Gracie Mansion was like built by the Astor family, which is insane to me when I found that connection.
Right, that is insane.
Yeah. that is something I think about a lot, is how much like we all kind of like, Patton Oswalt also has this great bit about like each generation's kind of like final temper tantrum. Like boomers, like it was like put Ronald Reagan in the White House, or like put the racist game show host. And so he mused on like what Gen X's is going to be. And I'm not sure how I'm 38.
I'm also 38.
Okay. So what, so like elder millennial. So like what will our last gasp be in a few years?
Man, I'm not looking forward to it. It's going to be terrible. As a generation, we've been put through so much. I could only imagine what it's going to be.
I know. 9/11, recessions, like just and everyone like shits on like us constantly.
Right.
It's just like, you would not have fared any better with this amount of like traumatic world events and economic despair.
I just want to be able to like own my home, maybe, or maybe like afford groceries.
Like really simple dreams.
I'm not asking for a lot. I don't want to need a yacht or something. Like, don't want to pay rent my whole life.
No, totally. And based on my dad's experience, he says the best days of boat ownership are when you buy it and when you sell it.
That's what I hear too. Yeah, my dad always says the best part about a boat is when it's someone else's.
Yes. No, exactly. I've done a lot of that too. It's like, let me make friends with people who have things that I would enjoy.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm never going to get them myself. So,
So Hopeless Otis starts, and what year was this again when we were
2009?
Okay, so 2009. So like we're kind of on we're a few years removed from 9/11 at the time. So what was there much of a punk rock scene in New York City proper? I've always known that there's always been stuff going on in Long Island. New Jersey obviously has been a great spot for like this style of music, like basement shows, rec halls, VFW, etc. In the five boroughs, though, was there much of anything going on when Hopeless Otis started?
Oh yeah, there was a bunch of venues that were still doing shows. There DIY spots like basement shows and stuff. Those never survive in the city for whatever reason. Laws, expenses, things like that, noise complaints.
Sure.
But yeah, it was mostly centered in Williamsburg.
Okay,
that's where a lot of the venues were at the time. As that back in 2009, Williamsburg wasn't as unaffordable as it is now.
Right.
Yeah. So the venues were able to pay their rent then.
Yeah, exactly. It was that sort of like, again, that the chasing of the artists. They chase them out of the Lower East Side over into Brooklyn, and we haven't pushed them over into Ridgewood yet.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Because that was Williamsburg. Then it went to Bushwick. Now it's Ridgewood.
Yeah. So so I'm trying to think of like what the cool hipster spots would have been at like that peak of the hipster culture. I think was around that time as well. So Knitting Factory would have still been around. Pete's Candy Store was that ever a place? I used to do comedy there.
Yeah. A bunch. Our very first show was at the Trash Bar in Williamsburg.
I have heard of Trash Bar.
Trash Bar was an awesome place. It was exactly what it was called. They kept the lights down And that was probably doing everyone a favor because when they turn the lights on, I'm like, oh, that's the furniture I was sitting on. Yikes!
Right, like there's no black lights in here, right? This couch is probably going to turn into the Big Dipper,
right? Yeah,
literally.
Pretty much. All the stalls in the men's room didn't have doors, so if you had to like drop a two, it's not happening.
God. Yeah. Did you ever go to Cabin on 2nd Avenue A?
No, I haven't.
That was the best like independent comedy show for like a really long time. You could see like Jim Gaffigan, like huge celebrities would just stop in to work out stuff. It was always packed, very like the CBGBs of the alt comedy scene when I first got here. And similarly, the bathrooms at Cabin made CBGB's bathrooms look like the Four Seasons.
Oh man.
It was like similarly, it was like just like constantly damp.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what Trash Bar was like. But at the same time, it had the best sound. Right.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah.
Right. The best sound. It was like it was a built-in crowd. There was always people at the shows. And they did this great thing where they had they had the back room for the shows and a front bar, but they had a bar in the back where the shows were too. Okay. And they would do a happy hour during the first band set.
Oh, cool.
And it was like a crazy good deal. It was like $2 PVR or something like that.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You know,
bring a lot of people just for that.
Exactly. So if you want to get people out, they worked. Like people would be there for the whole show because they wanted to get that happy hour. And it absolutely worked. It was cool.
Oh, that's awesome. That is a good symbiotic relationship of business and art. I like the idea of that.
Yeah.
Because like the good venues will work with the art to try to enhance it. And then obviously bands want the venue to do well so it can continue to exist.
Right, exactly.
So I love that existed.
Yeah.
And there wasn't like, almost feels like sometimes you have to like fight the venue to have the show go well.
Yes, I've had those experiences too often. Yeah. Especially like being on tour. I mean, I've dealt with so many venues, and some are great to us, and some are just not.
Yeah. Because you just did this like big anniversary tour, like up and down the East Coast. Okay. Is there any place in the country you haven't played yet? Because I assume after all this time, you've probably done runs a lot of places.
Done a lot of it, but we haven't done the West Coast.
Okay. West Coast. All right.
The West Coast requires you to either fly or drive for a long time. Because like if you're going in the northern part of the country, once you hit Minneapolis, the next city is a long ways away.
Yeah, it's like Boise.
Yeah. I'm actually recently I've heard some good things in the Dakotas. I don't know. Okay. I've never actually, and that might be true. But if you want to get to the West Coast, that's a long way. Yeah,
that is a slog, especially through those square states like your Kansases and the like. I was doing some research. Apparently, there's some stuff happening in like Salt Lake City.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. SLC punk, huh?
Yeah. There's also, and of course, there's a great market for like edgy kind of stand-up comedy, not like the Joe Rogan kind of edgy, but like actually edgy.
Right.
And then of course, like Brian Regan obviously does some amazing there, but there's absolutely every I feel like everywhere where there is like a lot of people that are just kind of like, what's the best way I want to phrase this? Kind of like tolerating, like being kind of tolerating like a certain level of not quite oppression, but a certain level of like conformity.
Yeah,
there's an innate human need, and I don't know if this is unique to Americans specifically. There's an innate need to kind of just rebel against anybody who trying to tell you how to live.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that myself. I mean, so I don't know if it's an American thing, but I definitely think it's a me thing.
No, totally.
My least favorite thing is being told what to do.
Yeah,
I hate it.
No, same. So again, like, and similarly, like you kind of have to for so much time. So it's to have that time on stage to kind of thrash around and
nice
kind of connect with people in that way is amazing.
Yeah. Being on stage is one of the most liberating things. It really is. I mean, it's like, it's your time.
Yeah.
You know, even if they're rushing you, like, you've got 10 minutes left, you have one song left, whatever, that's my song and I'm going to do it. I created the song. You're going to hear it. You have no choice.
Totally. Yeah. Absolutely. What are some of the favorite places you've played, like when you've been on tour?
Chicago is definitely one of my favorite places. Great. I love Chicago. I love Charleston, South Carolina. Is awesome. We just did Greenville, South Carolina, on a Monday. So, you know, Mondays are usually throwaway shows, you know, like, but the place was packed on a Monday.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, which was crazy. I'm like, you guys have never heard of us. What are you doing here?
It's Greensboro. I don't want to be, I want to be out. I want to be anywhere with you.
I guess so. I mean, it was pretty cool. That was nice. Richmond, Virginia is a lot of fun too. It's always fun when we're there. Always have a good show.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of places that like one night will be awesome and then the next night won't be, you know, there's a lot of that too. But I'd say Chicago and Charleston, South Carolina are the two places we've been to millions of times.
Awesome.
Always an awesome show.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. If you don't mind me asking, like when you set up like the runs like this, just thinking for my own band, might want to start trying to do some weekenders. Like what is step one? Because I've heard some people say they like try to have a lineup together with some local bands and then approach a venue. And then I've heard some people just kind of try to find a promoter.
So what I do is the very first thing is ask the guys what dates they're available. That's the number one.
That's
right?
number one.
That's the number one, right? Then once I get that, then I ask them, what region do you want to hit? Okay. And when they do that, and then I'll take a map and I'll start mapping it out. Like we're going for 10 days. How many 4-hour drives can we do in these 10 days? Okay. You know, and I'll map it out and I'll show the guys. I'm like, does this map look okay to you? Because you're gonna have to do some of the driving, so you might as well give me some input. And then once I get that, then I'll start hitting up either promoters or venues in the area. I don't look for local bands until I'm told to.
Gotcha.
Because if you get like a bill together and now you got to look for a venue, you don't know what the venue is going to say to you if you've never hit them up. Like they'll be like, "Oh, we have a bill for you," or because every venue is different. Right? Either they'll say, "Oh yeah, date's yours. I'll put the bill together," or "Date's yours. Get some locals," or "You don't have the date until you have locals." You know? Or you'll get these are just assuming you get the yeses. I mean, there's obviously the no's and the ignores, which is most of them,
of course.
But the yeses is what I do is I like when I'm doing a long run, I'll start hitting a venues about 6 months out, and a lot of times they'll say, "Oh, we don't start booking until 3 months out." I'm like, okay, so I'll set an alert,
little alert,
exactly 3 months from that we don't do that email, and I'll hit them up again. There's definitely been times where they'll say, "Oh, we're booked that day." When I do that, I'm like, "Come on, come on, you don't like me that much."
Yeah, it feels personal now.
Yeah, right. Like, come on, just tell me you don't like me. You know?
Yeah, I would prefer that.
Yeah. But like if. And thankfully, if you go to the same spots, you'll probably find a local promoter or band that can help you out. But if you don't have that, like I'd say I hit every 10 venues I hit up, you get a response once. It's like a 10% response rate. It's like, and it'll take months to put it together. Like a 10-day tour, it'll take like a couple months to put together.
Man,
yeah, it's a lot of work, unfortunately. Yeah, but somene's got to do it.
No, someone has to go and play for Greensboro. They need Hopeless Otis.
That's right.
Absolutely. And you have Hopeless Otis have how many albums?
So let's see, we have 5 full lengths and 1 EP.
I was listening to the latest. Ground Up is added to the Skip Lag playlist.
Nice.
I really liked that one quite a bit. The reason I bring it up is somewhere in the midst of hardcore hygiene songs and really tuneful, because I've always thought when I listen to Hopeless Otis, it takes me back to that like 90s era, like Look At Records kind of style of pop punk, like before the 2000s, and then like Blink and Some and all of that stuff. Like it's a very specific vibe that Hopeless Otis gives me, which I love. Somewhere in the midst of this, you co-founded a record label with our friend Brandon.
That's true, I did.
Which is, from what I've experienced, doing a lot of really great work in terms of DIY shows here in Queens.
I appreciate that.
So how did Knuckle Down Records come to be?
So this was back in 2017. But Pyrite was we were looking to record our second album, Piss. Great, brilliant title, right?
Great title. It's a great hardcore band title.
Absolutely. We're real poets,
Oh, you 100% are.
So I know Brandon was an audio engineer, right? So I hit him up and we went to his studio. I don't know if you've ever been to his old studio in Power Street, tiny studio.
No, I've only been to the new one.
Okay, new one's very nice.
Yeah, new one's pretty nice.
So his studio before that was about half the size, maybe a little smaller. It was very crammed, but we got there. We had a great recording experience with him. I'm sure the guy's a brilliant audio engineer.
Oh, he is. Skip Leg's going in on Sunday.
Oh, awesome!
Do some stuff.
It's going to be a great experience.
I'm looking forward to it.
Brandon's got an ear that I wish I had half of, honestly. And we had such a great experience. And I'm thinking about I'm already doing shows. I was already promoting shows from 2012. I started doing my own shows. I see Brandon's got this studio. He's so fun to work with.
Sure is.
If we combine forces here, we can make something. Because one thing I wanted was because my experience being on tour, even in local bands and stuff, a lot of people were really good to me. I mean, of course, everyone likes to complain about the bad experiences, but
of course,
but so many people did so many good things, like for me and for my bands, where we wouldn't have been able to do the things we do without them. And I feel like we could build something where we can give back and we can help other bands experience these things. So Brandon has all the technical skills. He's an audio engineer. He can build a website. He can do all those things where I know how to book shows. I know how to book tours. I know how to run social media. So I'm like, I can help some bands who need to help with that. There's a lot of great bands out there who do not know how to promote themselves.
That is true. It is not most artists don't have that inclination. It's something that you have to learn, and it's just you have to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a part of the gig,
right? And those are the bands I know I can help.
Yeah,
I'm like these guys are incredible on stage. Why doesn't anyone know about them? And I want to change that. And don't get me wrong, we operate on a $0 budget. It's no one's getting rich on what we do. I mean, I doubt you're going to become a rock star from us. It's probably not going to happen. But we could probably get you, some people down in your shows. People will listen to your stuff on Spotify or buy your CD or something, because we're we have a following ourselves. So
yes, you do.
We do the shows at Shillelagh, and we just have people who just show up to our shows. I'll ask, because I usually work the door, right? And I'll ask them, what band you here to see? I don't know. Whoever's playing.
I'll be like, oh, cool. Thanks for being here. Yeah. I've met a few of the regulars that come to those Shillelagh shows. Yeah. How did you guys find that place? Because that place, I found out from when Bright Ugly played there. So how did you discover that bar?
So Shillelagh is 100 years old.
Straight up.
It's one of the oldest bars in Astoria, and I live here in Astoria too. So, but I played a show there. God, it was probably 2010, and it was very different then. They didn't have a sound booth. They didn't have a stage. It was very different. But when I was doing we were doing shows mostly in Brooklyn. And when Knuckle Down Records started, we were doing shows in Ridgewood in Brooklyn. A lot of the venues are very expensive, and that was putting a real detriment on the shows.
Yeah, because you have to pay money up front to have the space.
Yeah, and that was actually hurting the shows a lot, because then I had to really be concerned about, I got to make sure everyone draws people, because I got to pay pay the door and everything. All right, where at Shillelagh, that's not exactly how it is. They actually they're really good to me, where they tell me hey, this is your room. You make it how you want. You make the show how you want. And they trust me with that, thankfully.
Great.
And it allows me to put bills together that I think are going to work.
Yeah.
And especially now, because what I've been doing is we do some shows in Brooklyn still. We do Bushwick Public House. We did recently, and a couple other places, or Cobra Club. But I've been whenever we have the show at Shillelagh, I've been really focusing on promoting in Astoria.
Yes.
Like getting the local community involved in it, and that's what's getting those regulars to come out. Because I think I was guilty of this for a long time too. It's something like a mistake that bands and promoters and everything what they do is they only promote to other people in bands.
Yeah,
because they constantly get told the only people who are going to come to a show are other people in bands, which there's truth to that.
I mean, yeah, sure there is, but not everyone who likes music goes plays music.
Right, right.
Well, same like trying to promote comedy shows to other comics is just death.
Yeah,
because they are the worst audience.
Right, I would imagine so. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Like because they've heard everything. I've definitely been at open mics where I'm just like, okay, you're good. I know where you're going with this premise, and it's always fun when someone surprises me. But it's rare. It takes a lot.
Right.
I'm a hard laugh nowadays, and very similar. Like if you just have a room full of band dudes, it's like, okay, well, I could probably. I wouldn't have written it like that. You know.
Yeah, a lot of crossed arms and.
Oh my God, what is Brooklyn's problem with having fun at concerts?
It's rough. Yeah, that does happen a lot.
Yeah, I mean, not your shows, for sure, but I've definitely gone to some like cool kid Brooklyn shows, and everyone looks like they're like lining up to be thrown off a cliff.
Yeah.
Like, why is it uncool to have fun?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Truth is, like there are some places we played in other, around the country that have been like that too. I won't name any cities,
Sure.
But we played a show a couple months ago, a city in the Midwest, and the room was packed, the whole show, and it was a 5-band bill, and from start to finish, the room was packed, but nobody reacted to anything. And it was so awkward. Would have been better to have an empty room, probably.
Right.
It was so weird because like they wouldn't like when the first band was playing, they didn't even react when they finished the song.
Wow.
It was strange. They were just like staring ahead.
Weird.
It was very odd. And then when we went on, we're like, this was Bud Pyrite, like.
Yeah,
I'm out.
You're gonna throw energy at that.
Like it's unavoidable. I'm gonna be in your face. It's gonna happen. And then they would like stare at me blankly, like while I'm in their face. I'm like, do you not hear what's happening right now? Like we're singing about cereal. What is like? You can't get into this. Come on,
right? You can't at least like react, because if you can't react to when Pyrite perform, like even if like or not, you have to deal with it because it's just so like crazy.
Yeah. I'm sure there's people who don't like it or whatever, but like at least look like you don't like it then, like give me something.
Yeah, exactly. I've always wondered, I've definitely had shows like that where like someone is in like the front row and they're like not laughing, or like they seem like they're not into it, and maybe they're just unless the entire crowd like all just like survived a bus crash, and they're just like contemplating their life,
right.
It's just like come on, react to the show is better if you give me energy that I'm giving to you.
Exactly.
That's the relationship here.
Yeah. Well, although I do like sometimes like you'll see this and like a band will be like suffering on stage because the crowd won't give them anything, and then like they'll start like oh, you guys, what the hell, what's going on, like where's your energy, where's this? I'm like, that's only going to make it worse, man. Like,
oh yeah, for something, yeah, exactly. Like, move up front, or like, whatever.
Yeah.
I had a trick when Bright Ugly would play to get people to come up front. I would put like a thing of free stickers on the front of the stage.
There it is,
and just like, come get a free sticker. And then that gets everyone up, at least for a little bit.
Yeah. Get a sticker and leave the room.
Yeah. It's like, well, I guess that's just what they needed. They just needed a gold star today.
That's right. Well, at least has your band name on it, so it's okay.
Exactly. Oh my God. Man, dude, 15 years. That's really fun. That's really amazing. I'd love to ask you a little bit about like your approach to like writing songs. I don't know if you're like if your bands are collaborative or if you're the primary songwriter. I'm curious, like when it comes to the creative side of making your band's music, where do you usually start?
So with Hopeless Otis, a lot of times it either like the foundation will come from a bass riff, which is, I mean, seems like an easy thing to do, like you can build off of that.
Yeah.
Or it's like we're just like jamming together and something comes together.
Yeah.
I mean, because there are a lot of times like I'll have like I don't know how this, like I'll just be like in the shower, I'm like, this song sounds pretty good. Like, well, that doesn't exist. Like I've
done that.
Yeah.
It's just be like, I'm making up songs again. Well, got to go write it down.
Right, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
I got to write it immediately because I'm going to forget it by the time I get to work. So
totally.
Yeah. So that's absolutely like one of the things I'll come to practice. I'm like, hey guys, I got this. But what always happens is because I wrote that in my head, and when I show it to the guys, it becomes completely different because they didn't hear it in my head. Yeah. So it becomes completely different, which isn't a bad thing because a lot of times it ends up being better because I don't know how to play drums.
Oh yeah.
Like honestly, I wouldn't believe drums were possible if I didn't see people play them because it's like your arms and your legs are doing different things at the same time. This is what is happening.
I know I have such respect for drummers because I can't do that.
No, me neither. I've tried it. It's terrible.
Yeah. I can barely sing and play bass at the same time. So
that's something I really had to teach myself.
I know it took me a while to get that as well. So like the idea of like the cymbal hand is doing like one thing and then you're panning out a totally different rhythm on the kick drum.
Yeah.
I can literally feel the aneurysm
as
I tried to figure out how I would do it.
Right. Yeah. I tried to play drums and I would just like all my arms and my legs would just do the same thing at the same time. Like, this doesn't sound good. There's a reason why no one does this.
Right. Exactly.
So anyway, so I was saying is like, I'll bring this to them and then they turn it into something completely different and it ends up being way better, which is pretty cool. Or like I said, like we just jam out and something just comes of it, and then once the music is ready, then for the most part I'll write the lyrics, but every now and then like Mike will write some of the lyrics. Or Mike's a drummer, he writes some lyrics sometimes too. And in Bud Pyrite, most of our songs actually come from Matt's guitar riffs. That's usually a lot of times where they start off.
Gotcha.
He's a master of the hardcore guitar riffs. So like, I don't know, he just like has like 100 of them every time he shows up, which is kind of cool. It makes writing a lot easier, it's like he's like, I got so many, and then we just got to remember them. That's always the problem. Remember that third riff you played last week? Do we remember that?
Yeah, it goes like yeah. Let's do that. I think I've got a topic I can chat about.
Right, exactly. That's usually what happens. Like I'm like, okay, guys, we need two parts. I need a verse. I need a chorus. Give me two riffs, and then I can start lyrics, and then I'll write like one line for both parts, and then I'll just repeat them over and over again until more words start to come.
Dude, Bud Pyrite, he has like very sick kind of like classic hardcore riffs. I was listening to the newest album before you came over, and like I'm very late to the party on lots of cool hardcore. Like I mentioned Black Flag earlier, but I had never listened to Earth Crisis or Vegan Reich or Judge until like this year. Quicksand,
nice.
All those sort of like low, like the production quality is it makes the riff better because it's not super high quality. Like it's good that it's a little rough,
right? Yeah,
because you get that sort of like, it helps enhance the riff, and then especially when you have that like classic like hardcore like D beat kind of thing come in, and then again like I always just like I can't help but smile whenever I listen to your music, because it's the kind of thing that like is you just kind of wish would exist, and then it does. And it's your band, and I love that that's a thing.
Yeah, when we started the band, so it was me and Matt, the guitarist, and our original drummer Joe. We were at a hardcore show at Lulu's, which closed. I guess that closed down like 2015 or something like that. 2014. Actually, I think it was the last night at Lulu's open, we were there. It was a hardcore show, right? And we were listening. I'm like, these bands are pretty good, but wouldn't it be funny if we wrote songs about butts?
It reminded me of there was this webcomic called Nothing Nice to Say that dealt with like punk and DIY culture, and there was the first one I ever read was What If Raffi was in a punk band, and it goes ring 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 bananarchy. So I thought of that the first time I heard Butt Pirate.
That's pretty similar. Yeah.
Yeah. And have I been mispronouncing the name of the band the whole podcast?
Oh, it's Bud Pyrite. Yeah.
Pyrite.
Like Fool's Gold.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's okay.
Because Pat and I from Skip Like, we were trying to like, well, is it like a play on Butt Pirate or it is Pirate. I'm sorry.
No, please. Everyone does it. And it's like kind of on purpose because it's funny.
Okay. Cool.
It's Butt, Pyrite.
Gotcha. Good to know. And how many albums does that?
We have 4 albums.
Awesome. So you have like 9 albums worth of material out there between the two bands. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, we should just do this more often because I've been having a lot of fun.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
And I genuinely think like you're doing such like cool stuff for like DIY culture, and especially like new bands like mine. Like our third show was that that Shillelagh Tavern.
Oh, it was
show.
awesome. It was a great show.
We're still very much in that like getting better, getting songs out there, like learning how to play, sound good live. So that was tremendous point in the journey of doing that. So I appreciate that.
Glad you hit me up for that show, by the way.
Thank you.
I mean, like people really like you guys. That was cool.
That makes me feel really confident in what we're doing to hear that that's what people are saying. So I'm very thrilled to keep seeing what we can do.
So what happens whenever I do a show at Shillelagh, people will always come to me while the band is playing to tell me what they think about it, which is not a bad thing. I don't mind it at all. I don't ask for it, but they just tell me their opinions anyway. I guess because they feel I'm responsible for the show. Or
sure,
whatever.
Yeah.
So I know what everyone in that room thinks of every band that plays, basically. They were saying a lot of good things about you guys, so it's good. Like they'll definitely want to come back and see you again, I'm sure.
Fantastic. This is really exciting news, and excited to have new music with your label co-head very, very soon. We're looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, what else can of yours can we plug here before we get out? So Hopeless Otis and Butt Pyrite is streaming everywhere you get your music. Knuckle Down Records has regular shows at the Shillelagh Tavern in Astoria, Queens. Like when's the next one?
Saturday.
This Saturday.
This Saturday. Yep. Yeah, we got Hopeless Otis, Toys, Italian Blood from Baltimore. Oh man, I'm blanking.
Yeah.
Raw Nerve. Raw Nerve is opening the show.
Awesome. And because this is going to be out after the show, what's the next one after that? I'm sorry.
That's okay. The next one after that is October 3rd.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's also at Shillelagh.
Awesome.
Homebodies. Faka. Who else is playing that one?
Maybe I can find it while you're.
It's Dead on a Friday and Punk Rock Hero are playing that one.
Ooh, nice. That sounds like a cool name. Yeah, I'm gonna start going through your Instagram and following all of these bands. So I have like city bands to like put stuff together with.
Yeah, you should. One thing that I do is, I mean, obviously I have my go-to bands that I like to put on these shows, and bands that I already know. But like when you hit me up, like. All you have to do is tell me is like, what sound are you going for? I'll find a show for you. Like I have no problem putting on new bands. I actually look for new bands a lot. Because I mean, like you need someone to open the show,
Yes.
and also like no one wants to see the same shows over and over again.
Absolutely.
So I try to constantly build variety into the shows as much as I could. So I'm always looking for new bands.
Yeah, and I'm like become good buds with Tom from On Hiatus. He did the show.
Nice.
I
saw you had a challenge on here too.
I love those dudes too.
Yeah.
So like I'm just my world is growing because we know each other, Larry.
You know what? It's a mutually beneficial relationship, I guess. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, man, for doing this. I'm sure I'll see you again real soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Okay, folks, that's our show for today. Thank you so much for listening. Check out Knuckle Down Records. They put on great shows regularly at the Shillelagh Tavern in Astoria. And check out Butt Pyrite and Larry's other band, On Hiatus. Exceptionally hilarious hardcore punk and tuneful melodic pop punk in the vein of the Lookout Records era. So thank you all again so much for listening. They're On Hiatus and But Pyrite's music is available everywhere you get your music. If you enjoyed this podcast and think you know a friend who would be interested in listening to it as well, you can send them to awesomedisaster.com. That has links to everywhere you can get the show. If you want to give us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to help us please the almighty algorithm, I would sincerely appreciate it. And you can share links with a friend as well if you want to help find cool people find this podcast as well. If you want to go a little bit further and support the show, you can follow me on Instagram, willcarry23, or Between Awesome and Disaster. And you can also check out Skiplag NYC on Instagram, as well as our next show at Connolly's in the heart of Midtown Manhattan. We'll be playing October 18th. We go on right at 8 p.m. So I hope to see some of you folks there. And if you come and you listen to the podcast, I would love for you to come up and say hi. I would really love to see who you are and see who my things, my artistic outputs mean. And I hope you continue to be excellent, and I hope that some fall weather finds you soon. And folks, they announced the Hallmark movies calendar, so get ready for the return of my wife Chelsea and I's podcast, counting down the Hallmark movies really soon. Thank you again so much for being here, and I will see you next week between Awesome and Disaster. Vote and register to vote.